Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and it's by user JustBeingHonest4. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister-in-law that no one in our family is named Stephanie? I can't figure out if I did anything wrong, or if so, what? Because I honestly have no idea what's going on. Hopefully someone here can give me a clue. Here's the relevant information, as far as I know. My brother and his wife are expecting their first girl after 2 boys. I love Ricky and Jace, and so does my sister-in-law, but she has always wanted a girl and is very excited to be having one. She also wants to name the girl Chloe, as she loves that name. My brother hates the name Chloe and really wants to name their daughter Stephanie. They have been arguing about it for a few weeks since finding out the gender. I got to my parents' house last night and my sister-in-law was the only person still awake. We talked for a little bit and she asked me the weirdest question. She asked me if I knew any stories about Great Aunt Stephanie. I was so confused. I literally said, "Who?" Sister-in-law clarified that she was talking about our grandmother's older sister that died when grandma was a little girl. Our grandma had 2 sisters, but their names were Judy and Lynn. There's no one in our family named Stephanie, as far as I know. I told as much to my sister-in-law and she changed the subject after that and we soon went to bed. This morning, my brother and his wife were both sulking during breakfast. Even the kids could tell. Ricky kept saying, "Stop being grumpy on Christmas." So it wasn't just my imagination. I got my brother alone and confronted him. He snapped at me for meddling and told me to stay out of his marriage. My brother is pissed at me and my sister-in-law won't even talk to me. I'm afraid to say anything to my parents and drag them into this, especially since I still don't know what this is. Either my grandmother had a secret sister that I don't know about, but my brother does for some reason, or my brother lied to his wife to convince her to name their baby Stephanie. Both options seem equally weird to me. Maybe there's a third possibility I'm not seeing? Reddit, am I the a-hole? If so, please explain to me why. I don't want to be the reason Christmas is ruined. OP, no, you're clearly not the a-hole. All you did was sit down with your sister-in-law and have an honest conversation without knowing you were putting your brother in hot water. Because let's face it, he put himself there with that fake story of some great aunt Stephanie. I mean, even I saw through that one. For some reason, he really wants that name Stephanie and is willing to make up a fake dead relative in order to get it done. All your sister-in-law did was just ask you questions about this relative that she was so intrigued about, but apparently she just found out that this person didn't exist. And now your idiotic brother is pissed at you because you somehow exposed him by telling the truth without even knowing what he was up to. Anyways, OP, it is a very messy situation, but you are nowhere near to being an a-hole here. Your brother has all the accolades for that one. And what do you guys think about this whole situation, or what would you do if you were in OP's shoes? Give me your judgment in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see their judgments. Alv269 says, "Not the a-hole. It's very weird that your sister-in-law's not talking to you. It does sound like your brother was lying to try and get his preferred name, but you only answered a direct question that was asked of you. Does your brother generally treat your sister-in-law well, or does he seem to be the type that would be abusive? That would be a possible reason I see for sister-in-law to stop talking to you over this." And OP responds, "My brother adores his wife. They are always joking around and doing fun things together, either as a couple or with the kids. This weird sulking nut fight is the most contentious I've ever seen their relationship." Nemesis0408 says, "Not the a-hole. How can you be expected to keep track of other people's fibs that you know nothing about? And are these the only 2 names these people know? They both clearly like the double E ending, so what about Anemone, Ariadne, Bethany, Cecily, Clarity, Clemency, Coralie, Dulcie, Evadne, Ianthe, Marnie, Melody, Mercy, Nephili, Penelope, Persephone, Samathy, Rosalie, Rosemary, Sylvie, Tansy, Valerie, Verity, or Santhy?" And OP responds, "My brother thinks Stephanie is the perfect name and hates any suggestion that isn't that. He picked Ricky and Jace's names, so my sister-in-law feels it's her turn, and I'm somewhat inclined to agree, even though it isn't my place to say so. To pick, and my brother should accept what she likes." Chanduck562 says, your brother is a comics fan, right? Is he by any chance a big Batman fan? Because I'm kind of seeing a pattern with these names. And OP responds, yeah, big time, how did you know? And user FKA Lag says, let's just say if this baby had been a boy, he would have suggested Tim. To which OP responds, that was the name he wanted if they were having a boy, how did you know that? And that's when FKA Lag says, these are all the names of former Robins, as in Batman and Richard Grayson, Jason Todd, Tim Drake, Stephanie Brown, and Damian Wayne. Edit, in all fairness, it was Chanduck562 who figured the Robin connection out. And to this, OP responds, I am going to confirm this on Wikipedia, but if you're right, and I can't imagine why you would make that up, my brother is about to be in so much trouble. Additional information from OP's comments. I asked my parents and they said there's no Stephanie, so I guess my brother lied. It is completely out of character for him, and it's not like he's always been passionate about naming a daughter Stephanie. Before they found out the gender, he never even mentioned a girl's name, but he already had a boy's name he loved, Tim. Then they found out the gender and he was immediately gung-ho for Stephanie. For their first, his wife also liked the name Richard. For their second son, he really wanted to name him Jason, and she thought it was a fine name, so she just went with it. And now that Google confirmed what user FKA Lag said, I think Mikey's about to have a very unpleasant conversation. OP's short-term update. So, my sister-in-law was really surprised and angry. It was the most awkward Christmas Eve dinner ever. Lots going on. Everyone now knows what my brother was doing with the kids' names, except the kids, obviously. My brother said he thought it was cute and funny and would have told her once they were done having kids. My mom went off on him and called him a permanent adolescent that she failed to raise to adulthood. This really hurt my brother's feelings, and my dad stepped in and said no fighting during Christmas for the kids. So everyone agreed to table the discussion until after the festivities, but my mom said my brother and sister-in-law are naming the baby what sister-in-law wants, because after my brother's stunt, he lost the right to have a say. He reluctantly agreed. OP's Christmas morning update. This turned out to be a lot deeper than any of us realized when I first posted. Now that the drama has died down and everyone is resting from an exhausting Christmas, aside from some glaring over a couple of the boys' stocking stuffers, Robin Funko Pops, everything went well with the gift opening. As well as being woken up at 5:30 AM by being jumped on by one's nephews. I think my brother realizes he crossed a line and has been very attentive to his wife. He mentioned getting Chloe's name embroidered on some stuff when they get home. He even told mom he would do the Christmas breakfast so she could have a break, and he gave me an I'm sorry grin when I opened his gift. I think everything is going to be fine. My sister-in-law did end up having a nice Christmas. I don't think she will remember this as her favorite Christmas, but it was an alright one, and the kids were happy, which is what is the most important to her and my brother as well. They are probably going to have a long talk when they get home, but they truly love each other, and love can survive mistakes, even unbelievably stupid and borderline mean ones like this one, when both parties are willing to put in the work to forgive the other and or redeem themselves. I think my brother is starting to realize how disrespectful what he did was, and I hope that's not just me seeing him with rose-colored glasses. Oh wow, well the community definitely came through for OP with this whole Robin's names things. Wow, that was a big catch. It changed the whole story. Now, even though OP's brother did mess up big time, apparently things aren't so bad in the family and they're going to have a conversation. So let's move on to the update to see how this story ends, but of course before that I gotta show you another playlist, like this one that only has stories with updates on them. Go check it out. Now let's move on to the update. I told Mikey and his wife that I posted on Reddit. Mikey was confused that I figured out what he was doing because he knows I have no interest in comics. So I sent both of them the post. Mikey was really embarrassed when he read what many of you said. Mikey is playful and loves his kids more than anything. Our family has always been one to tolerate small, short-term white lies for the sake of harmless pranks. However, Mikey's lie wasn't small, short-term, or harmless. He hurt his wife's feelings deeply. Mikey says, and sister-in-law confirmed, that he was never insistent about naming my oldest nephew Richard. There were other names he suggested, but she liked Richard, so they picked it. Mikey spends a lot of time with Ricky. He often takes him to job sites and lets Ricky pretend to be his assistant. He has this playful thing with Ricky that he's Mikey's sidekick, and they're a team. It's sweet. And here endeth the sweetness. When my sister-in-law was pregnant again, Mikey wanted to replicate the Robin thing. He wanted to name his son after the next Robin, Jason. My sister-in-law wasn't as big a fan of that name, but she also didn't have a name she loved. Mikey was very persistent about the name, so she decided it was fine. He never told her why he wanted that name, just said he really liked it. My sister-in-law said to him, and to me as well, that she doesn't have a problem with the fact that he got the name from a comic book. She gets what the meaning is to him, even though she doesn't like comics, and she does think it's cute. Her issue is that he lied by omission. Even though she wouldn't have cared about the name, he lied just in case she might have. And if it had been something she wouldn't have approved of, she would want to have been able to say no. However, even this she would not have been too mad about. The lie of omission became an active lie when he made up a family member to convince her of the name of the next Robin, Stephanie, when there was a girl named she loved, Chloe. That's not a small lie for a cute prank. Even though Mikey was defensive initially, after they had a private conversation this morning, he realized how wrong he was and apologized. My sister-in-law said he was very sincere, and Mikey has never been good at faking sincerity. He feels very bad for taking advantage of her trust. He feels even worse that it involved their children. My sister-in-law told me when we were texting she had to use this example. Imagine you wanted me to try a food, but you weren't 100% sure I would agree. So you didn't tell me what it was, then I tried it and asked you specifically what it was, and you lied. He was horrified by that scenario, and that's when it started to click. Our mom said something to him about how grandma would be very disappointed that he made up a lie like that about her family. He was so close to grandma, and I think he is ashamed now. This whole thing has soured my sister-in-law on the name Chloe. Now it only reminds her of the fight Aunt Hurt. She wants to come up with a completely new name, maybe one related to her hobbies like Mallory or Rita. She's going to take some time not to think about it. Their marriage isn't in danger, but a wound is there. Now that Mikey has admitted fault, it can heal, and it will with time. If you learn anything from Mikey, learn that everyone makes mistakes. If someone truly loves you, they can usually forgive you. However, to earn that forgiveness, you have to admit to what you did, not double down and try to trick your way out of it. Extended from OP's comments. My brother is an amazing father and loving husband. When my sister-in-law got invited on a trip she really wanted to do, when Ricky was 8 months old, my brother made sure there was nothing to impede her trip. He took care of everything and she came home to a spotless house. The thing about Mikey is that he is impulsive. On a less charitable day, I might even call him childish. He's also one of those people that rarely sees anything as a big deal. In his mind, this was a cute and harmless prank. Only after our mom and his wife separately explained to him just how messed up it was did he get it. My sister-in-law's hurt. She feels like he took advantage of her unconditional trust in him, which caused her not to question when he spun yarn for her. All the same, he has admitted that he is in the wrong, apologized, and agreed that whatever name makes her feel better about this will be the name regardless of his preference. Healing from this will take time, but she is willing to put in the effort to forgive, and he is willing to put in the effort to work for that forgiveness. Well, OP, I'm gonna call this a definite positive update towards a happy update in the making. You are absolutely right. What your brother did was absolutely wrong. But it's cool to see that your sister-in-law has the capacity to try to see it from his point of view and try to find some middle ground. Good on them for working on their marriage. Anyways, thank you so much for sharing, OP, and all the best in this upcoming new year. Take care. Now, let's move on to the mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user Hanky Panky. I don't want the car. I'm not a malicious person, though I do feel some joy reading this sub. First off, my dad was a great man. He was just dumb sometimes. Lol. Some background. I am one of the youngest from a very large family. My mom passed away when I was 10. My dad, bless his heart, was from the generation where the man worked and the women took care of everything at home. When my mom passed away, the responsibility of everything at home fell on the kids. By the time I was 11, I was regularly cooking dinner for 8 to 10 people. I had a long list of chores. Truly, it was fine. I'm sure I pitied myself some because my friends didn't have these responsibilities, but I really had a great childhood, minus the dead mom thing. When I was 16, my dad got me a car. I paid for gas with babysitting money, my dad paid for insurance and maintenance. I had to get my little sister and myself to and from school. I had to do the grocery shopping, I had to get the two of us to practices and meets. I had to run chores. I was responsible for driving her wherever she needed to go. My day consisted of getting to school, getting home, grocery shopping, making dinner if it was my turn, homework, practice, and bed. Meets were on weekends. I never went out. I was never in trouble. I was an honor student. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I was a good kid. All was well, relatively. And then my dad got a new girlfriend. Her kids were in high school with me. She told them that if I got to have a car, I should be fully responsible for it. After all, her kids were. So my dad sat me down and said, I've decided that if you want a car, you have to pay for it. I expect you to take over payments, maintenance, and insurance. I told him I couldn't afford that. He told me I'd have to get a job. I said I had no time for a job. He told me I'd have to figure it out. So, cue malicious compliance, I guess. I went and got my keys and handed them to him. I told him I didn't want the car anymore. He was a little shocked, but I guess he thought I'd come crawling back for it soon. Lol. The next morning, my sister and I missed the bus. I had to wake him up so he could drive us to school. He was pissed. We got a ride home from school. At 5:30, when dinner was supposed to be on the table, I was reading on the couch. He came home. Where's dinner? I said, oh, I didn't have a car to get to the store. I'm sure there are some leftovers you can heat up. He told me I'd have to start walking to the store. I told him I didn't have time. Finals were coming up. Didn't he care about my grades? An hour later, I told him it was time for practice. My sister and I needed a ride to and from practice. He told me to call a friend. Sorry, I can't. No one on the team lives in this town. I would be really out of the way for anyone else. He drove us. Then he picked us up, silently fuming the whole way. The next morning, whoops, we missed the bus again. I had to wake him up again. Plus, he had no orange juice in the morning, on account of no one going to the store. Once again, no dinner on the table. He had to drive me to the store when he got home. Once again, we needed a ride to practice. I informed him that the meet that weekend was an hour away and he had to be there at 9. That was enough for him. It was probably the most parenting he'd done in 30 years of being a father. He called me to the top of the stairs, he tossed my car keys up to me. I've decided you can have your car back. I'll pay for half of the payment and half of the insurance. You can only use it for school, practice, meets, chores, and driving your sister. I laughed, tossed the keys back and said, that's all I use it for anyway. I don't want the car. Sell it. 5 years later, he's screaming my name from the bottom of the stairs. He overhand whips the keys up the stairs. Yo, my dad never got this mad. His new deal was he'd paid for everything but gas, but I wasn't allowed any personal use of the car. I said, so I have to pay to do chores and get no benefit from it? No thank you, and I tossed the keys back down the stairs. Half an hour later, he demands my presence in the living room. He calmly said he would pay for everything but gas. I'd have the use of the car when I wanted, but I had to do all the stuff I'd previously been doing without complaint until his girlfriend got into his head. He didn't phrase it like that, of course. Then he said, I hope you learned a lesson here. I did. Lol, I certainly did. OP's edit. Yo, please refrain from calling my dad a piece of crap, etc. He died several years ago. I loved him very much and you're bumming me out. He raised us to the best of his abilities and all his kids are happy, fairly successful, and very, very close. Please just enjoy the story of malicious compliance and teenage triumph. Awesome, OP. Great negotiating skills. Your dad put himself in a corner because his girlfriend got in his head, like you said, and then he had to backpedal. Must have been awesome to see. Thank you for sharing, OP. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.